A breaking news story, the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has just announced a cabinet reshuffle. The reshuffle affecting 4 MEC positions, of course, as you heard earlier. Let's get those details from our reporter, Xoli Mngambi. Thanks so much for joining us, Xoli. So, 4 people actually moved around, some dumped, some not. Tell us what's happening.
Well, Shahan, the 4 MECs affected here, but let's be clear that we're talking about 5 departments, by the way, that have been affected. But of course, the 5th department is that which was previously occupied by the person who is now the Premier of the province. You'll remember that the KZN Premier was recently reshuffled, and Xoli Mngambi occupies now the seat of Premier. Previously, he was in the Transport Department, and so a person has been brought in now to fill his position. But the rest of the other they have simply been moved out. And so these 4 departments we're talking about, I think we're talking about the Department of Sports, Economic Development, Education, Agriculture and Rural Development are the 4 departments that have been affected.
So there were some very strategic appointments here. Tell us about that.
Importantly, Shahan, remember we spoke at some point, in fact, at the beginning. In fact, it was even during the provincial conference itself when speculations were being made that Sihle Zikalala, because it does not have a previous government experience, he needed to be brought into government. And so the talk back then was that he is going to be brought in as an MEC first before he eventually ascends to the position of Premier. And so the understanding is that the position of Premier, he will take it once this term of government has come to an end. And so the person who's going to see through this phase is Xoli Mngambi as Premier. And then after 2019, we understand that it is going to be Sihle Zikalala who's going to ultimately be the KZN Premier. But for now, he occupies the position of Economic Development MEC. That position was previously occupied by Mike Mabuyakulu. The other interesting position, Shahan, or department that is now taken up by the SACP Provincial Secretary, Themba Mthembu. That department is Agriculture. That was previously occupied by Cyril Xaba. Why I say this is interesting is because who are the people that have been making noise in KZN about the issues that affect the alliance in the province? It is indeed the SACP that has been making the most noise. And so is this a way for the ANC to shut its alliance partner, the SACP, by co-opting the provincial secretary of the party in that province and make him a government official? We are wait and see whether or not the SACP will continue to be forceful and vociferous on issues such as what they communicated this weekend, for example, issues around state capture, which the ANC seems to be playing down, by the SACP General Secretary Blaine Nzimande coming out very clearly this weekend saying that this matter is very important and it continues to occupy their agenda as the SACP.
So they might have pleased the SACP regarding this appointment, but they still have opposition parties in KwaZulu-Natal who are unhappy in the first place with Senzo Mchunu's removal, him being replaced with Xoli Mngambi. Now, of course, this is going to mean possibly more political parties, opposition parties coming out saying, guys, why are you doing this now? We can't afford it.
The important thing, Shahan, to ask is this being done to the best interests of the province, the provincial government, and more importantly, is this being done to better the delivery of services to the people of KwaZulu-Natal? Now, you'll know, you speak about the opposition parties. The IFP is on record last month when the reshuffle of Senzo Mchunu was announced that, are you doing this to the best interests of the residents of KwaZulu-Natal, or is this does this have to do with factional issues within the ANC? Because if it is done to appease a certain faction within the ANC, then perhaps it's not going to achieve what you are telling us publicly that you are doing this for. And so just reading the statement that was put out by the provincial ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, they're saying that after having assessed the provincial government, it became necessary that there be leadership change. And so they're saying that this is done to try and better the delivery of services to the people of KwaZulu-Natal. But we are wait and see, because the SACP itself has raised a concern. In fact, it was this morning that the National Secretary of the Young Communist League was saying, but we don't understand this. Firstly, you remember that they were very unhappy with the reshuffle of Senzo Mchunu, saying, why at the time like this when we ought to be focusing on winning the elections, the local government elections. And now they were saying with this announcement that 4 MECs are going to be chopped, does this unify the ANC, which is supposed to be a machinery now that is going into the local government elections talking in unison? Is this going to achieve unity? Well, we wait and see.
So do you think this is actually going to affect the ruling party in KwaZulu-Natal? It's a stronghold. Do you think decisions like this will impact on whether or not voters go to the polls and put that mark next to the ANC?
It's always difficult to assess that, Shahan. As you say yourself, the ANC is, rather the KwaZulu-Natal province is a stronghold of the ANC. We know that that is where the leader of the ANC, President Jacob Zuma, comes from, and it's quite strong there. It's the biggest province of the ANC, just in terms of the internal processes, in terms of voting blocks. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal brings the largest number of voting delegates to any ANC conference, and so it's quite a strong party there. But will these issues surrounding the province, will these issues that are now affecting the province mean that that amount of support, even from the electoral point of view, is reduced? That is something that we're obviously going to wait and see, because these factional issues, obviously, they do not bode well, as of course pronounced by the ANC's own alliance partners.
All right, thanks very much for the insight, Xoli. Of course, we'll be keeping track of the story throughout the day. That was our reporter, Xoli Mngambi.